This is usually the part where we would typically introduce the panel. However, as you can see, we do not have any Board of Ed members present. Tina LeBlanc had every intention to participate tonight. However, she was directed not to. As most of you know, Tina has been a hardworking member of the Board of Ed that listens to her neighbors and offers as much information and clarification as possible. Tina, who has the largest run on the Board of Education, is in it for all of the right reasons. We will not be able to provide any further information on that. Tonight, your moderator is Marcy Talicio, and she will explain the format of how we're going to run tonight's meeting. So with that, Marcy, take it away.
Thank you, Gina. Welcome to everyone. Normally, we start with a Q&A of our panelists, but given the circumstances, we do not have a Board of Ed panel. As Gina said, Tina and I believe Scott were intending on coming to the meeting tonight to provide valuable information to you, but they were unfortunately directed not to attend. So we're going to try something different tonight. I'm going to provide a school-related topic and allow you this space to have a constructive, open discussion. You can use this time to brainstorm, share experiences, offer advice, suggestions. This meeting is your meeting. I ask that you remain respectful, no personal attacks, one person talks at a time, be mindful of the time, no national politics, and please keep this conversation between adults. We do have State Representative Tom Arnonia on the call, and I know that he will be more than happy to, provide any kind of information that he can from the state level. So I would like to start and offer the floor to Representative Arnone just to give just a brief overview of his time at the state, and later on we'll allow him to provide us some updates.
Hey, thank you. I really appreciate you having me here, and I really enjoy coming. We've been briefed. Actually, today we had a 2-hour briefing on schools. So it's a hot topic on the state level as well as the local level. So I am prepared to try to answer any of the questions tonight if how we directed the local school districts on what they should decide to do, because that's basically how it works. The governor is giving guidelines with the Department of Public Health and the the state school systems, and they're giving guidelines and what they should do, and leaving the final decision up to locals. So and I know our Enfield right now is forming those, and from what I've seen, they are in the guidelines that the state is offering. And we just came out of a special session with 4 bills that we passed, so I can answer any questions there too. So thank you very much for having me.
Marcy, you need to unmute.
Yeah. Every meeting.
Oh my God, I thought I'd gone deaf.
Gina, you need to control my mute and unmute, please. So I want to open the conversation up to your thoughts, your opinions about sending kids back to school right now, and or not. I know we don't have a lot of information at all, but what is it that, is steering you one way or the other? For those of you that, yeah, go ahead. Sue?
Oh, I can.
Sorry.
Tom, I wondered, my school system, I didn't have a problem at all with the plans that they made. I had a problem with the fact that they made these plans based on what the state wanted, and then the busing never changed. So essentially, they put the kids in cohorts, they talked about masks and how they remain social distancing, but then the bus could have 63 kids on it, and nobody looked at that. My school is different than Enfield. I think Enfield has more control of their busing. But I wondered why you would go to so much trouble to cohort the kids, clean the schools, do all this stuff, and then leave the busing the same.
And this one has been a really, as you say, hot topic on busing. Now, federal law for busing requires that every child has access to school busing to get to school. So there's legal issues and huge monetary issues. So when they looked at this, they said, in order to bring buses down to third capacity it just costs too costly. And that's been the rub on this on the busing system. And now it's not over with yet, because this is still a fluid plan. Every day it can change depending on public outcry. It depends on each district on what they can afford or not afford to do. And hopefully we can help on a state level to afford, better plan for busing. And I have a problem with the busing part too. So I'll be honest with you. I thought we left that a little less to be desired. So now we're encouraging too to get parents to drop off. So there's a plan also that the school departments have from the state on safe drop off routes and ways to drop children off for you as a parent. So I think there's going to be more talk in the future now. We're trying to get parents to lessen the burden on the buses and allow you to take your children in. Go ahead. Sue, you wanted to?
Oh, Tom, I drove bus in Enfield for 14 years, and one of the problems that we had was parents dropping off.
Yeah.
When we had the small neighborhood schools, it was awesome because you had a small amount of small amount of children going to these schools, and they were different ages. They weren't all kindergartners and first grades and second grades. And then you had these elementary schools, and they crammed everybody together. And you forgot that, oh gosh, now we need 15 buses where we used to only have 3 buses. And we don't have enough room for parents to drop off in Enfield. It's a huge problem.
I could not agree with you more. And think of I think the largest high school in Connecticut is Danbury, I believe. You can imagine with 4,000 or 5,000 children, and adults, young adults in this case in high school, what a complete chaos that would be. And again, I can't agree with you more. That's where our local neighborhood schools were awesome. It wasn't one of my favorite changes. I'll be honest with you.
No, it wasn't mine either.
Prudence Crandall, they were walkers, but we drove them every day. It was a nice small community for the area. But there's advantages to the way we do it now. Busing is not one of them. It costs an incredibly amount of money to implement this new plan with busing. So busing's been an issue, and it's even COVID lessons. It's going to be even more difficult to try to get the children to school safely, and I'm not sure we're there yet.
Oh.
Dina?
Okay, so I guess my big question is, because what is the rationale and the thinking around having to reopen for September when meetings are currently still Zoom meetings? You guys just did a big vote in all your separate offices electronically. Places restaurants are still not open to capacity. You know where I'm going with this. Things are not back to normal. And to me, and this has been my quote, it's like we're using our children and our teachers as the guinea pigs to try this out.
Yeah.
So I'm desperately trying to understand what the thinking is around that.
So, I can't speak for the administration or any of the departments, only as a father myself and understanding where you're coming from. But looking at, and I said this in the last meeting, there was a lot of social issues that come along with this, a lot of mental health issues, and in a lot larger cities than ours, especially as parents go back to work and they have no place for their children to go. Daycare has been decimated through the state right now. There's so few daycare places to put your children in to begin with. And, we envisioned a lot of inner city and large communities where young kids would be forced to stay home while their parents go to work. Plus just another second year without the social interactions of a child. So, we're essentially grounding our children now. And it's one of those painful decisions. And I'm glad I'm not having to really rub the stones together on this, because it's sad that you have to weigh the fact of the health of a child mentally and physically too, because they need to get out and move around, and their parents need to go back to work, and the teachers need to be safe, which is a huge task in this whole thing. So, that's where the wheel really hits the road, is somebody has to make this decision. And I've heard it several times that, even if we get our children back to school for say 2 months, and then we can start working immediately with them in preparation, if we see these numbers start to grow again, we can start to prepare them for another, half of or 3/4 from December on, working back at home again. So we're able to get those kids into the class. Maybe we should be starting some mental health evaluations right away, checking for abuse, checking for problems at home. All these things are not being reported right now because the children have nowhere to report these. They don't have the nutrition, but most of us do. So it's an easy decision for some of us to say this is nuts, but it's not as easy a decision if you're in those positions where your best meal comes from school. And it's a tough decision. But I said, this is so fluid right now. If these numbers climb, we already have a plan, and it's, I can put this on my website. We just got it today. And this is how the districts will determine from the Department of Health how, as the infections grow locally, when they get to 10 to 25 new cases in 100,000, that blows the whistle on starting the moderate hybrid learning. So in infections climb again, they will go right back to out of the classrooms and back home. So there is a very defined way for districts to determine if it's time to go back to distance learning again. And that way it's district wide. So we're watching each district. So God forbid it happens in Southern State quicker, and like we haven't had the issues. It's been slower on this end. We're able to have a little more time than the rest of the state. So that's what their plan is.
Thank you, Tom.
Anybody else have any thoughts about that? I mean, we kind of went in a few different directions, but busing or the decision to send your child back. I know for me, my oldest, my school-age child is going to be a senior. She's also going to be able to get out at 11:20 every single day. So for me, I trust her decision to want to go back. It's her senior year. And for a teenager, she kind of needs that social interaction. Not that they all, they all need it, but, it's pivotal time for her. However, my 10-year-old, I'm not going to send back. I'm gonna do the opt-out and just do the virtual learning from home until, for me, there's a better plan in place. So, you know, I don't know. I don't think that any of the, I think there's been 2 options provided to us. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but it's in person and the opt out. And then they were talking about a potential hybrid.
Right.
You know, I'm not ready for them to be back in the building.
Yeah, and you do, and that's what I think the governor's team and the legislature is really want to make sure that you have those options, and that if you're able to keep your child home, we want to definitely provide you with the tools you need to keep your child home. So the governor just rolled out his $43 million plan for distance learning. This is probably the largest plan that has been given out and the most money given to it in the country. And what Governor Lamont's plan is laptops we'll have for 50,000 students. We'll have at-home internet connections, and we'll work with local providers to make sure that they have public hotspots and Wi-Fi areas, so people that can't afford it and may not have it, that they will have the option, that they'll be able to use that option. And I recommend it for people that can. If you can homeschool and you have the fears of, especially, well, so the younger children are going to be, it's very difficult for them, but it's actually teenagers that we worry about that can carry the virus too, and actually, they're the riskiest at youth. And I might add, my granddaughter graduated the last semester. So, I know what I saw her have to go through a year of no high school. On her graduation year, no prom. She had just bought her prom dress when they canceled the school. So, it was horrible to have to see a teenager have to go through I can't imagine what it would have been like not to be able to graduate and then have have the immediate family over, social distancing in the back room, watching it on TV, clip together portions of your kid's graduation. So these are other things that we have to think about when we're pulling the plug on this. And that's why I think the balance, we're trying to give every person the option. It's local, still local control, but we're giving the local districts every tool they need to make sure that you can homeschool your child if you can, and the people that have to get their children to school, other than busing at this point, we're trying to get the best we can. In cleaning too, the cleaning guidelines have been released on how we're going to clean the schools, and we've teamed with Yale University, and the state and Yale are putting together some of the best minds in bacteria and disease prevention are working right now to make sure your child goes to school in a clean environment.
Yeah. And so, the busing situation, I know for me, I can't quite understand how we don't need social distancing on the bus, but in school, in the community, we do. So I'm a little bit confused about that as well. And I know that if I was sending my little one back, I would be driving, to and from.
Yeah, we did it for 4 children. We didn't have busing. We lived within a mile.
Right.
We lived, like a 1/10 shy of a mile, which you would never let your child walk that far to begin with in elementary school. So yeah. We brought our child, and that was the neighborhood schools too. So many more people actually had to provide their option of driving. So I don't think that's unreasonable today to try to help some of the overload out and have parents, as long as we can, like you say, corral everybody in to do it safely in these larger schools.
Right. So for those that just joined, we are having a community conversation about some school-related topics. So it looks to me like, Sue, you might have something to say there.
I had one. Yesterday I read a little news article, and I haven't read anything today, so I can't confirm it, that somebody was planning on making internet in Hartford a public utility, which would be given away for free. And it's something that I've talked about ever since I drove cross country. I stopped to see my uncle in Iowa, and in Iowa, internet is a public utility. And for high speed internet, they paid like $20, and were totally amazed when I said, "Oh, I'm paying $76 for that."
Wow.
I'm thinking, why is it just Hartford that's doing this? If it can be done, why doesn't Ned Lamont jump on that and say, "Yo, let's make this a public utility. Let's get rid of the monopolies that are formed and do it up." I mean, I believe Hartford said they'd have it done by next year.
You're spot on. And little do you know, when I was on council, over 5 years ago, our assistant town manager, which he's no longer with us, presented a plan to Enfield to have
I remember that.
to have a utility. It was such a good deal
Yep.
that it was the Sci-Fi Network that approached the town. So the Sci-Fi Network says, "Hey, we'll build the entire network for you, and then we'll turn it over to you for a lease, and it doesn't cost you anything." So these things are so possible, and what the Sci-Fi Network gets out of it is more people watching cable TV, more people watching the internet, more people enjoying their programming. So to them, it's a no-brainer. That same assistant town manager went to Rhode Island, and Westerly, Rhode Island, implemented the plan. Unfortunately, we didn't have the foresight to say this is a great idea. And we were told that the average price ice that would be incredibly more faster than anything we see here and more reliable would be within $20 to $30 a month. And it's still possible, but it just hasn't caught on locally in Connecticut. Obviously, Hartford has jumped on the bandwagon, and this is old news. And that's the worst part. It's old news. But we got a big backlash from some members on the council that, well, what about Cox? What about our cable companies? And then you get the lobbying, you get, even happens on a local level, and then you get the pushback. And you get the problems with now trying to implement something that, then now government's going to take over another utility. It's going to ruin it. So that argument people start to believe it again, and the government can't do anything right, and it never gets done. But governments that can see this, and you'll see it down in Southern Connecticut too, where there's a lot more money than we have, and they can afford high speed internet. There are a couple of towns and they've implemented this, and it's wireless, which is even greater thing. It's easier to do because they just throw wireless on top of poles, and they don't even have to run cable for this. And then the town takes it over, makes money, and everybody gets cheap internet. So lobby your local representative.
How exactly would we do that when the meetings are closed to public conversation? I'm sorry. I apologize. Personalities are left behind. I will mute.
Well, it's a good point, and I think we kind of already sort of maybe touched on it. The fact that we're all still meeting virtually. Somehow we feel that it's safe to put our kids all in one place in person. So it's kind of like the school bus scenario, right? Yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts about, sending your child back? Any concerns, questions? And if we can't answer them, we'll certainly send them to the board and get some answers for you.
I didn't really have a question. Again, I have to say that I'm not in the Enfield system, and there's a reason for that. But I wanted to mention to any parents that are on this phone call that 3 days after my school closed, there was a Zoom meeting for parents to dial in and hear what was going on school level and voice concerns. What did you want to see? What was happening? And I kept hearing from Enfield parents, oh, we don't have anything like that. I think I went to more Zoom meetings with the principal of my school than anybody else. And I was just so impressed. And I just assumed that other systems were doing this. And I assumed wrong, but there was no place. I mean, I put it out on my Facebook and people would laugh at me because they were like, oh, you're bragging again. Well, I had a reason to brag. And I really think that, I'm just going to say it, that parents in this town need to start saying that that was wrong, that they should have been more included, that they should have had more of a voice, that they should have never been disincluded. We had some great ideas, and some of those ideas ended up in our school's plan because they hadn't thought about it and they had us to think about it. You know, the hybrid plan that the governor just came out with, our school has essentially said, well, we're going to make up a plan for that because he asked for it. But we already know that siblings have to go together, and there's no way to make that in a hybrid plan. So no, Ned, we're not doing it. And I was like, thank you, because had they thrown that at us, my kids wouldn't be able to go to school. So
Yeah, that's tough. I don't think any of these scenarios is easy for any of us. But yes, Sue and Gina, I know you've had a pretty good experience during all of this, and unfortunately a lot of others, whether it's this district or not, didn't have that same experience. So I'm hoping that for the fall, we do have a little bit better handle on what we're doing as far as distance learning. All right, let's move on to another topic. Well, James, you're on the line. I was going to talk about special ed a little bit. Do you have any thoughts about special education? And I know for me, my concern was the delivery of services for parents that do opt out, and you know, and whether or not they've received services since March. So I don't know. I mean, on the state level, even Tom, is that something that you're hearing anything about? Oh, you're on mute. You pulled one of my tricks.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, and that's a whole nother another topic. I think that's being discussed, but it isn't being discussed, you know, publicly yet. We haven't even been briefed on a lot of it either, because I think they're still trying to figure out how that's going to work because of health issues, and it's very complicated.
Yeah.
So I'm not really, we haven't been briefed on it ourselves, so we're not sure what they're thinking.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that a lot of parents are aware that, you know, there's no IDEA, who governs IEPs and 504s, has not waived any service delivery. And so, you know, your IEP and 504 still stand, and to make sure that they are voicing any concerns. Or, I mean, sharing any experience that may be helpful for other parents as well. I know special ed's a tough one.
Yeah, it is. And it's, like I said, it's not openly discussed right now because it's probably such a complicated matter. They really don't know where they're going on it. But I know there's serious concerns with it right now, because there may be a whole lot of exemptions, you know, mask wearing exemptions, or more at home learning there. It's endless there, and that has the easiest one to fail. Actually, it's the easiest part of the whole school system to fail, because it's you know, it's very difficult to you know, bring students in you know, in a you know, pandemic with health issues. So, and I know when I did discuss it very slightly with the governor, we got to talk a little bit about exemptions. A lot of people were asking me, you know, what happens, you know, my child's got asthma, he can't wear a mask, or he's got health, he or she has health issues, or behavioral issues, you know, and he says, yeah, we're going to work out, we have to work it all out individually with individual districts and their issues. So I think I said it last time too, you know, people have to email their representatives with their concerns, and we pass those emails up to the governor, and the governor's people, you know, they get the pile of them and they act on the ones that are the serious problem. So they don't hear about it. They only hear about it from their department heads and social services. They need to hear about it from the people that are actually walking into the schools. So I urge you, if you have any concerns with special education, email me, text me, and I'll get that up to the governor, and I'll get you an answer, because I always get an answer back.
Yeah. I know we had a question come in. Let me take a look. Okay, so yes, we're talking about, you know, of course, sending kids back to school. What about the seniors? Adult daycare, senior center. A lot of the same exposure concerns about school buildings should also carry over to the other kinds of gathering centers. Can you tell us, you know, a little bit about what's going on with, you know, the senior center? And I know that they are using that, I believe, in the upcoming election as a space. So, you know, what is happening with our seniors?
Well, the seniors too, and you know, we had a lot of I had a lot of emails for library is one, is another too, that our seniors love to frequent the library, and they missed it, and they were you know, it's very difficult to be isolated and not be able to go get a book and go read like they had done so often. The same with the senior center. So, you know, that's a part of the opening plan. They were treating that pretty much just like a restaurant or a you know, or a department store. So it's going to be opened you know, in time, slowly. So you won't get your aerobics back for a while. You're not going to get your, you know, your most of the programs to do with health are unfortunately just not going to happen. But we need to start thinking of different ways. And you said it was Zoom meetings too, which is it kind of irks me that we hear that our community isn't doing a lot of what you've already been doing, and you do this weekly, and you know, people can come on and see people and socially interact very easily. Now, you don't have to be a techie to do this, you know, and you know, I know people in their late 80s that are doing this. That, you know, to set them up a little Amazon tablet, make it very easy, very simple, and it only costs $50 for an Amazon tablet, you know. And we're not doing enough of it. So we got to think differently. Senior center staff and senior center directors have to think about, hey, how can I get out and get people to come here without having to be here? So they should be running as many of those programs as they can. And I know the Reverend Gray, you know, he's been doing it too at his churches, you know, and they're fantastic. And you know, you run a great meeting, Reverend. It's open, it's laughing, everybody's having a great time. You know, I envy it, and more and more people need to jump on this kind of social interaction, even if it costs to get people the tech they need. So, you know, that's what we have to rethink about how we're treating our seniors and how we're treating our library. You know, we could put a tent outside in the library too, you know, and people can come out to a tent. These are the things that we just, as a community, have to think around, and we can't do that if we don't have a voice in our town meetings to say these things, and that is an issue. You're doing it now. You're getting people to think about, hey, how can I make life easier for a senior? How can they, you know, if you don't email us, we're not going to hear it, and it's not fair that we can't have back and forth, and we need that in the senior center and the library.
Tom, I think we need that now more than ever, and I think what has me pretty disappointed is that we are for better or worse, we're in a crisis situation with COVID and this pandemic. And to shut out the residents at a time when the residents need our elected officials the most and have so many questions, it just baffles me. That's really all that I can say. And as a resident and a taxpayer, I know some people don't like that word, but you know, I want to be able to ask a question, and I'd like to get a response. And I mean, we can't. They've done it in other means, in other types of meetings. So, in my opinion, and I'm just going to say it, I feel as though it gives the impression that they're hiding from the public, and that they don't. And this is not. I'm not speaking at all of them, but there is a perception that it's like they don't want to address the public, and they don't want to hear from the public, and that saddens me, because like I said, these are not normal times we're in, and I hope we never go through anything like this again in our lifetime. That being said, you know, our residents really need to pay attention to what's transpired over these past few months. I'm not sure. I don't really know of anyone that I've talked to that even emails some elected officials if they get a response from all, or maybe from one or two. But you know, I don't know what to say. I don't want to keep rambling, but it's been very disappointing to me that politics, I guess, is getting in the way of just being there for your residents in a time of crisis like this. And you know, for the school stuff, I mean, it's very stressful. I have a 9th grader, and he's very self-sufficient. I'm very lucky. We're going to choose distance learning because that's what I feel is safe for our family. But there's a lot of parents out there with younger kids, special needs students. We run the gamut. And if I wasn't able to ask some questions, I would be very frustrated. I'm already very frustrated. And as Sue mentioned, we had the ability to be on a Zoom call with our school superintendent and 4 of his assistant superintendents, and they were all fielding our questions. And I mean, the chat box was running pretty fast. You know, even if something like that was done locally, you know, for the people to join, you know, I just really wish that they would think about this and realize that it's just not, it hasn't been a great example that they've set during this time of need.
And it's very possible to do. Now, the state, we have been running public meetings, public hearings rather. So it hasn't stopped us on a state level with millions of people to say, you know, here's something, we're going to give you the option now to express your feelings about. And you haven't been able to come up and do it personally, but we've done it through, you know, mailing in or video, you know, video submission or whatever you can get to get your word to us. But we keep those block days out before any big bill to COVID or not. It's so important that you have the public's give the public a chance. And you know, a lot of people out there say, yeah, they don't listen to us anyway. But at least we listen. We try to give you the chance to voice your opinion, and we do. You may not think so, but even on the state level, and it's an incredible amount of people that would speak out against a bill. We do read them. We do sit through. I've sat through, you know, I said 27-hour public hearing, 27 hours straight. And, you know, I'll sit there for every single person that comes up and speaks, because if they can sit there for 27 hours, I better be there for 27 hours. You know, that's just, that's what it's all about. You agree or not, I'm going to listen to every single person. And that's the beauty of democracy. I love that. Give me a chance to, you know, hear your opinions. And that's what we're all about.
And I just want to clarify, I was talking local in Enfield.
Yeah,
I think you know that, yes.
Just the point of, it's not impossible to do. It's not.
Correct.
You can't
Correct.
Do. You can do it. You can do it with 5 people. You can do it with 500 people today.
Yep.
we live in a great time when it comes to being able to express your thoughts.
There's no excuse, really.
You can look at my email account on the state, and when a hot topic will come up, we can get thousands of emails that'll come in without hesitation today, with the electronics too of online petitions and the such. So we hear it. I mean, it comes through, and it's there, and we should use it.
And just so everyone knows, I just want to make mention that Tom sends pretty much a daily email. He sent a daily email through this whole COVID experience that we've been in, and he does it himself. Everything that comes from him, he doesn't have a staff of hundreds that are doing it for him, because I asked him when him and I chatted. I mean, he's doing that himself. So I appreciate those updates, because that's what we need in time of crisis, right? And
right.
That's sort of what we're in right now. So
yeah. If you're looking for my COVID update, I'm sorry, I'm on this Zoom.
We'll give you a little bit of a delay.
And it looks good today for Connecticut too, by the way. So we're still maintaining an excellent rating here in Connecticut. And although we're getting these little tiny climb here and there, it is small, and we're still working together as a community. And I thank everyone that wears a mask, everyone that thinks that, I'm going to save a life by doing what's correct. We are the model in the country. Tonight's news, flip it on, look at the states that are in the clear. So it took a while to get around. I'm not saying it's not going to come back in a backlash and come right around circle again, but we'll be prepared, because we'll already be used to doing what we need to do.
Yep.
And I really do envy, Sue, your comment about, offering suggestions and having them incorporated into the plan is pretty amazing. So yeah, that's a great way for this to work. We all coming together to provide input, because I mean, you may have thought about something that I clearly didn't. So that's really what a great conversation is about.
Absolutely.
Some other special ed questions. Let's see, as you guys can see. So James is on the call. He's a long time ed advocate. So I have a lot of respect for James. And Eileen, you're on the call, and I know that you have not had such a great experience with special education and your granddaughter. And David, you've provided a lot of really good feedback too, so I appreciate that. Eileen, do you know, or if you're willing to share, what the fall looks like for you? Can
We
she hear me?
haven't heard a word from the school system.
Okay.
Didn't even know what was going on with her. We didn't even know what was going on with her grades. They didn't say she passed. They didn't say she failed. They just gave her credits. So she's pretty much left behind in a cloud.
Use your voice. Speak up. You have to advocate, and I know that you're actually a really good advocate for her. But we can't let our kids fall behind. And I actually worry about, I was talking to somebody today, I worry about what this does for Common Core. We are not gonna be on the same page anymore. This district might have had a better, distance learning curriculum than the other 5, so I don't know how that's going to pan out with Common Core.
If I may, I would like to say that when I speak to parents across this country, especially in Florida where I'm from, the only thing that they really want is those making the decision for their loved one's education is just to provide clarity, but to maintain it. Don't just say, well, we're going to put out a plan, but not follow up with it, or not, or like we touched on, like with special very few of the elected officials, and even those making decisions for our education, isn't really touching on every division or bureau that's involved in education. And that's what I think a lot of parents, especially the ones I talk to, are really concerned about. It's like they only care about one specific part of it, but they're not looking at the bigger picture and everyone who utilizes education services.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I appreciate that.
So, any of these concerns too. Now, we often, a lot of legislators will say, hey, if you have special ed problems or local problems, and we usually send it over to the superintendents in town. But I don't like to do that. If people have issues with the way our special education system runs, or just comments about it, those are the things we need to know too, because we'll send it up to the state level, to our Board of Education, and because they're making the rules for our locals. So, any representative that'll tell you, hey, that's a local issue, I don't want to get involved, that's a head in the sand. I don't do the head in the sand. So I'd appreciate it if you have individual problems, just jot them down on an email, send them over to me, and I'll get the State Board of Ed to take a look at really what their programs are doing, and are they policing them, or are they following through with their issues locally, because they are still the governing body over your school system. And we have a big responsibility on the state end to make sure our locals are following the rules and following through.
One final topic. I'm not sure you can handle or field this one, Tom, but it's about JFK. I saw some pictures today about that showed the inside. And it looks pretty torn up, during this construction. And with September right around the corner, I know originally they were planning on using, the cafeteria space or the auditorium, spaces that I believe are now torn up. So I don't know if any of you have JFK kiddos, what you've received for information on September and, how that's going to work.
Yeah, I served on the building committee for a couple of years, right into the decision to where we are today, and then elected out. So I have skin in the game on this, and it hurts me right now that JFK is going to be an issue. You want to talk about busing? Holy cow! How can you take a school that size and then coordinate children off in a pandemic? And I'm not speaking that I know, because I haven't heard what the plans are. But we had thought back a couple of years ago, when we were talking about this, in a regular non-pandemic year, to open another school up again, and being able to use those schools as a way to decrease the population in a school that you're working wing by wing, and you're not getting any bigger. So I don't understand how we're going to get smaller in JFK and follow social distancing. That looks like a problem waiting to happen, but I haven't heard, maybe I will now when I open my mouth, but I haven't heard any plan on what we intend to do with torn up rooms and it worked and not pandemic. So I have concerns with JFK. That is a huge issue, and we do have other space available in town, and if it takes money to get those spaces available, I would hope that the building committees.
The Enfield Annex, for example, the Enfield Annex.
We have the annex, but we do. We have the one Taylor Road School too that is vacant, and we do have other spaces that are available.
I will say,
not in last.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Many of us watched the Board of Ed special meeting last night regarding the superintendent's plan for reopening, and the question about space and the annex Fermi. and Nathan Hale came up, and the superintendent reported that Nathan Hale's roof, the boiler is broken, and the roof, in quotes, looks like Swiss cheese. So he didn't find that to be a viable option. And for Fermi, I guess the town is using some of the rooms in there for offices, as well as it not being ADA compliant. So that's the answer to those two buildings anyway.
Yeah. So you know, when Craig was building the academy in town, they took an old school on Brainerd Road and put it up to a Brainerd Road school. That school sat there for, I don't know, close to probably 20, 25 years. It was in a horrible condition, but you know, they did what they had to do, and you know, they repaired it enough to move into that school until their school was being built. And now that had some upgrades too. So thinking out of the box, maybe they should contact the owner of that school. And you know, it's only been sitting there for 4 years now, after it was renovated by the state to house the fire and police academy. So you know, sometimes again, you have to think out of the box, and things cost you money too, which is unfortunate. But you know, we do have you know, fund balances and emergency money that should be used for purposes just like this, because this is true.
What about Thomas Alcorn School? Is that even being used for anything anymore?
Which school is that?
Thomas Alcorn?
Alcorn is filled with town, half hybrid town, hybrid school. So it's got a couple of the floors have some administration on it, and a couple of floors have one floor has our IT department on it. So that's, yeah, that one's already spoken for. But you know, in this, so the governor's you know, suggesting we use auditoriums, suggesting we use gyms. You know, we have to roll with the punches, and we have to think of different spaces to use and utilize out of the ordinary that may not be the greatest for our children on a normal year, but right now this is far from normal.
Yes, I don't think any of us were prepared for where we are right now. Any other thoughts, Gina? Any thoughts from anybody? Any closing remarks? Any questions that you want to have us ask of the board? Okay.
Marcy,
Yes, sorry.
me?
Yes.
I just want to really thank Tom for joining in all of our special meetings, because Tom, without you, apparently we wouldn't have much of anyone.
Amen.
Tom
Yeah.
has been great. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I'm proud to be here. Honestly, anybody can call me over and I'll go. You know, it's nothing personal here. It's just it's what we should be doing. We should be, you know, reaching out to our constituents any way we can, as much as we can, even if we don't agree with what they're saying. I'll be available to defend it or not. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. This is huge. I love coming on this.
Yeah.
Because you guys are all there. You know, you're doing things that so many groups should be doing right now, and they're not. And we got to change that. We got to see what a great, easy format this is.
Thank you.
Marcy, I have nothing else. Eileen said it beautifully. I concur completely. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you for everybody for participating tonight. We will see you next week with another great topic. So really have a great week, and you know, let us know if you do need anything. You can message through our Facebook page.
And Marcy may do a tap dance next week for you too, just to switch things up a little bit.
Can I also put a plug in if anyone wants to join our committee to let us know?
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Bye.
I would like to sing now.
Not yet. No singing yet, you.
Well, all right, you're gonna miss out though.
What just happened?
It's now the week of the 10th.